Here's Anthony and Mike with an AMI This Week shortcut.
We all know that you can train a dog. Well, most dogs. But Mike, did you know that you can train a bug?
That doesn't sound real, Anthony.
Well, I should be more correct in my terminology. You can train an arachnid, which, by the way, is not a bug.
Okay, you mean like a spider?
I mean a tarantula. Apparently, it can take a couple of years, but you can train a tarantula to be more calm around people, to behave in someone's hand. But if you don't handle the same tarantula for a good couple months, it can forget what it's learned, and you'll have to start back at square one.
Well, now I'm really curious to see if Alex Smyth, our reporter in Edmonton, played with a trained spider or an untrained one. Let's check it out.
Welcome to Animal Class.
I'm at the Royal Alberta Museum in the Bug Gallery, and I'm joined by live animal supervisor Pete Heule, who's got a tarantula in his hands. Pete, this is the one I think of whenever I think of tarantulas.
Yes, this is a Mexican red knee tarantula, and they are the go-to Hollywood tarantula and probably the first tarantula to become popular as a pet.
Usually when I think of tarantulas, I think dangerous, if it bites me, I could potentially be really hurt or even die. Is that true?
It's not, really. So tarantulas, there's no such thing as a tarantula that's deadly to humans. And generally their tendency to bite is going to be, when they feel threatened.
The old adage I always remember is red touches yellow, you're a dead fellow,
Yeah.
which is the rhyme. And you see on the tarantula, it has the red that seeps into the yellow.
That's right. So the red and black in areas of the world that these guys are from is sort of a classic warning pattern, just like the yellow and black we see in bees and wasps up here. Should teach you eventually that it's not just things that buzz, it's things with the right paint job that are going to potentially sting or have some kind of a painful consequence if you do mishandle them.
Now this spider is about, say, 2.5 inches in size. Is this as big as it's going to get, or is it going to get bigger?
They will continue to grow throughout their life. This is a female, and female Mexican red knees can live for 50 years, making them actually the longest living tarantula and the longest living spider. Their brothers die of old age at 6 or 8, so we try to be careful to make sure that with the training, it takes me 5 minutes to get a person used to tarantulas. It takes me a couple of years to get those tarantulas used to being handled by people.
Now I notice on the legs of the tarantula, they're quite hairy. Why is that?
Very good question. Now, you might notice if you look very carefully at any spider that they do have a fair amount of hair. The tarantulas, though, are exceptionally hairy. I always tell the kindergartners that they walk around in a fur coat made out of whiskers. So they have very poor vision. There's only 8 eyes, but they're 8 tiny little pinholes, and they don't tell the spider very much about the world other than whether it's light outside or dark outside. So their most important sense is touch. So each one of those hairs on the legs is more sensitive than the hairs on the back of your neck. But people often remark that they're almost like a pipe cleaner. They're very, very fuzzy. They do have a shell on them, but it's just so covered in these sensitive hairs that it gives them more of a furry kind of appearance.
How do I go about petting?
Okay, so I'm gonna hold her in such a fashion that she won't accidentally walk off the edge of my hand. A fall from about waist height for a tarantula would be death. And if you wanna just run your index finger down from her knee, down her leg there.
Okay.
You can see just how soft it is, eh?
Yeah, very, very soft, but as you say, it has that feeling that's reminiscent of a pipe cleaner.
Yes.
Okay, I pet the spider.
Totally.
Can I hold it now?
Yes, you absolutely can. So hold out your hand. It's going to be a little bit ticklish. I think what you'll notice, most people remark, is how lightweight they feel. Looking at the tarantula, they're about the size of a mouse. Yeah. But they're probably half the weight of a mouse at the same size.
Yeah, I did not expect it being this light.
They're also distributing that rather light weight over 8 different legs. So, if you had a mouse on your hand, you'd be feeling sort of 4 points, of the 4 legs pushing in a little bit more.
What do they eat?
So for her, mostly we give them crickets and cockroaches as far as something easy to get our hands on, in captivity. But in the wild, it would be a wide variety. Any insect they can get their teeth on, I guess, when they're that size. Even something like small rodents, lizards, amphibians, although it's a much less common part of the diet. Even our bird-eating tarantulas are big enough to eat some birds, but we're not talking about ostriches or eagles or anything like that. So it's always spider size or smaller.
Thank you so much for taking time teaching me a bit about tarantulas. I no longer am going to fear them when I see them on the screen next time. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. That's great.